The tide is pulling back. Can you feel the shift? We are standing here at the edge of what we once thought was a permanent shoreline, watching the water recede from the places we assumed would always be submerged, always be full, always be under our control. For years we have built our lives upon the assumption that the high-tide presence of our work, the stability of our relationships, the steady rhythm of our routines was the natural state of existence. We defined ourselves by what was held in our hands. We identified our value by the depth of the waters we could navigate. But now, the ocean of our circumstances is retreating, leaving behind a landscape we hardly recognize. A jagged, exposed terrain of hidden reefs, damp sands, and the stark, unfamiliar reality of what lies beneath the surface of our own lives. We feel this retraction in the quietest, most private corners of our being. It is the sudden, jarring realization that the structures we relied upon to hold us together are not permanent. It is the phantom limb of a lost identity, the silent ache of a role that no longer requires our presence, or the haunting transparency of a future we spent years constructing, only to find it dissolving in the salt air. We are currently experiencing the anatomy of the low tide. It is not merely an external event, it is an internal reconfiguration. We look at the landscape of our own history, and we see the reefs, the vulnerabilities, the neglected corners of our self-worth, the hidden attachments, and the unspoken fears that were always there, resting just beneath the surface of our high-tide ego, but which we were too busy, too distracted, or too defended to ever acknowledge. Why does this feel like such a catastrophe? Why does the natural cyclic movement of life, the ebb and the flow, feel like an assault on our very survival? It is because we have collectively fallen for the myth that we are the masters of the tide. We have spent our precious, limited life energy trying to build seawalls against the inevitable. We have become masters of clutching, gripping the sand as it slips through our fingers, convinced that if we could just hold on tight enough, we could keep the water at the level we preferred. But the tide is not a personal enemy. It is the fundamental law of all experience. Everything that rises must eventually find the point of its departure. To live in the world is to be constantly subject to the movement of these waters. Yet we have built our houses on the shifting sands, and now that the retraction has begun, we find ourselves shivering in the open air, feeling naked, exposed, and profoundly unanchored. We see this desperation in the way we carry our bodies through the day. We are currently moving through the world with a sense of guarded contraction. We hold our breath as we check our notifications, as if the next message might be the one that finally shatters the fragile wall we have built. We feel the tension in the space between our collarbones, a hollow, aching pressure that tightens whenever we think of what has been taken or what is currently slipping away. Our nervous systems are stuck in a cycle of hypervigilance, constantly scanning the horizon for the return of the water, for the validation of the past, for the restoration of the normal we so desperately crave. We are so busy trying to predict the return of the tide that we have completely lost the ability to stand, simply and honestly, on the sand. There is a profound, almost primal fear here. The fear that if we do not hold on, if we do not panic, if we do not actively fight the retraction, we will simply cease to exist. We have mistaken the state of having for the state of being. We think that our substance is made of the things we hold, and that if we are stripped of those things, if the job ends, if the person leaves, if the dream shifts, we are being hollowed out until there is nothing left. This is the great delusion of the human condition. We are terrified of the low tide because we do not yet know how to meet ourselves when we are not defined by our external cargo. But look closer at the reefs that have been revealed. They are not signs of our brokenness. They are the unique topography of our humanity. They are the structures of our resilience, the calcified remainders of our past challenges, and the potential for a deeper, more rooted way of living. We have been so focused on the depth of the water that we never saw the beauty of the bedrock. We have been so obsessed with the surface that we never understood the strength of the foundation. The retraction of the tide is a forced invitation to witness our own depths. It is a harsh, necessary clarity. It is the moment when the narrative of who we thought we were is stripped away, leaving only the truth of who we are. A consciousness capable of witnessing the change, capable of feeling the exposure, and capable of finding a new, more profound way to stand. We are currently navigating the ambiguity of this exposure. We feel the vertigo of the unanchored self. We feel the strange, cold wind of uncertainty blowing across our exposed reefs. But we are also beginning to realize that the reefs are not the problem. The problem is our resistance to being seen in this state. We are still trying to maintain the image of the person who is swimming. Even though the water has gone, we are still performing the gestures of the person who is held. Even though we are standing on the dry, waiting sand, we are exhausting ourselves by pretending that the environment is something it is not. This performance is the primary source of our current suffering. It is the persistent, low-level vibration of dissonance that makes the low tide feel like a punishment rather than a transition. If we could simply acknowledge the reality of the retraction, if we could stop the frantic attempt to maintain the illusion of the high tide, we would find that the pressure on our chest begins to subside. We would find that the tightening in our throat begins to loosen, not because the situation has changed, but because our relationship to the situation has changed. We are no longer fighting the physics of the ocean. We are no longer fighting the rhythm of our own lives. We are finally, perhaps for the first time in a very long time, allowing ourselves to be exactly where we are. This is the first step toward the architecture of our inner sovereignty. It is the simple, radical act of standing on the sand and feeling the reality of the ground beneath our feet. We do not need the water to be here to justify our existence. We do not need the status, the relationship, or the external structure to prove that we are alive. We are alive in the exposure. We are alive in the vulnerability. We are alive in the very moments when we feel the most unanchored. This is a radical, unsettling, and entirely beautiful truth. We are the ones who can stand in the middle of the low tide and see the reefs for what they are. We are the ones who can witness the changing waters without losing our own internal balance. We are the ones who can finally stop the performance of the swimmer and begin the practice of the observer. We must understand that this movement is not a static tragedy. It is the natural, inevitable, and fundamentally necessary breath of our existence. Just as the tide must pull back to reveal the hidden life of the reef, we must also experience these periods of retraction to reveal the hidden strength of our own character. We are being tested not by the absence of what we loved, but by our capacity to remain whole in the face of that absence. We are being tested by the very silence that follows the loss. Can we sit with it? Can we breathe into it? Can we look at the exposed reefs of our own vulnerabilities and say, I see you, and you are part of who I am, and you are worthy of my love? If we cannot do this, we will continue to suffer. We will continue to run from the tide, chasing the past, projecting our fears onto the future, and missing the only opportunity we have. The opportunity to inhabit the present moment with a clear, honest, and courageous heart. We are being asked to relinquish our need for the permanent, for the predictable, and for the controlled. We are being asked to embrace the flowing, the transient, and the deeply uncertain. And in doing that, we are not losing our security, we are moving our security from the external shifting sand to the internal unshakable bedrock of our own awareness. This is the beginning of the work. It is the beginning of the journey toward an acceptance that is not passive, but profoundly active. It is the practice of standing still while the world is in motion, of finding our center while the tides are retreating, and of realizing that the hollowness we feel in our chest is not an empty grave, but a space that is waiting to be filled with a different, more resonant kind of presence. We are here, we are breathing, and we are finally, honestly, facing the reefs. This is the place where the transformation begins. This is the place where we discover that we are not the water that has gone, we are the life that remains, the consciousness that observes, and the resilience that endures. As we continue to stand here looking out at the receding water, we must notice the subtle, almost imperceptible changes in our own internal frequency. The panic is still there, yes, but it is no longer the only thing. There is a new, quiet curiosity beginning to stir in the corners of our awareness. We are beginning to ask questions we never dared to ask before. What am I when the water is gone? What is the quality of my life when it is not being supported by the external structures I relied upon? What are these reefs, and how have they shaped me? By asking these questions, we are shifting from the role of the victim of the tide to the role of the student of the tide. We are becoming the researcher of our own undoing. This shift in perspective is the first real act of agency. It is the moment we stop being the object of the change and become the subject of our own unfolding. It is the moment we realize that while we cannot command the ocean, we can, with enough practice and presence, learn to navigate the terrain that it reveals. We are beginning to remap our own internal landscape. We are beginning to understand that the things we lost were not the things that defined us, but the things that obscured us. By losing them, we have been stripped of the vanity, the illusion, and the distraction that kept us from seeing our own true potential. The reefs were always there, it took the low tide to show us their true shape. As we breathe in the cool salt air, we feel a strange, paradoxical sense of expansion. It is as if the receding tide has not taken something away, but has instead opened up a vast, new and uncharted territory for us to explore. We are not smaller than we were before. We are more exposed, yes, and perhaps more vulnerable, but we are also more real. We are more authentic. We are more aligned with the truth of our own unfolding existence. This is the paradoxical gift of loss. It reveals the truth that was hiding in plain sight. The truth that we are sufficient in our own emptiness, and that we are capable of standing on our own solid and undeniable ground. We are ready to look at these reefs. We are ready to touch them, to understand them, and to integrate them into the story of who we are. We are ready to stop fighting the physics of our own lives and start living in alignment with them. This is the work of the coming hour, the work of the coming days, and the work of the rest of our lives. It is the work of becoming a person who can walk through the low tide with grace, with presence, and with an open, inquiring heart. We are here, we are ready, and the tide, in its own slow and mysterious time, will eventually turn again. But for now, we have this: the clarity, the exposure, and the immense untapped potential of the reef. We are beginning to understand that our fear was not of the loss itself, but of the space it created. We were afraid of the silence, of the emptiness, and of the sudden startling proximity to our own true selves. We were so used to the constant noise of the high-tide busyness, the responsibility, the identity, that we had forgotten how to listen to the sound of our own pulse. But in this quiet, in this retraction, we are hearing it. We are hearing the rhythm of our own heart, a steady, persistent, and unshakable beat that continues, regardless of whether the water is high or low. This is the heartbeat of our own sovereignty. This is the signal that we are alive, and that, in and of itself, is a miracle. We look at the reefs one more time, and we see them not as obstacles, but as the landmarks of our own evolution. They are the record of where we have been, the evidence of what we have survived, and the map of where we are going. We are no longer ashamed of them. We are no longer trying to cover them up with the water of distraction. We are standing in the truth of them, and in doing so, we are finally, truly whole. The tide will return. Life will fill our days again. but it will fill them differently this time, because we have seen the truth of the seafloor, and we have realized that we can stand steady and unshakable no matter what the ocean brings. This is the foundation we are building. This is the peace we are claiming. And this is the beginning of the truth that we are now finally ready to live. The tide is retreating, and in this slow, agonizing withdrawal, we are finally forced to confront the architecture of the life we built upon the sands of permanence. We have spent so much time convincing ourselves the structure, the job, the role, the external validation was the foundation, that we never stopped to look at the ground itself. Now, as the water pulls back, we see the jagged, exposed reefs of our own existence. We see the hidden vulnerabilities that were always there, resting beneath the surface of our high-tide ego, waiting for this very moment of retraction to reveal their true shape. We feel the vertigo of this new, dry terrain. The ground is hard, uneven, and entirely unforgiving of the soft, padded shoes we have been wearing for years. But this exposure is not a tragedy, it is an autopsy of the illusion. Consider the way we move through this space. We still try to walk with the same confidence of the swimmer, but there is no water to buoy us up. We stumble. We feel the sharp edges of the reefs against our feet. We look around for the comforting, familiar blue, and when we do not find it, we feel a sudden hollow panic blooming in the center of our chest. This is the physiological signature of the undoing. It is the body's way of saying that the story it was told, the story of its own invulnerability, the story of its own permanence is no longer congruent with the evidence of its senses. We are being asked to inhabit a reality that is fundamentally incompatible with our previous, curated sense of self. This dissonance is the source of the persistent, gnawing anxiety that defines the low tide. We are trying to hold two contradictory realities in our minds at once. The reality of who we were when the tide was high, and the reality of who we are now, standing in the salt and the silence of the retraction. We are mourning the loss of our own importance. We are mourning the loss of the roles that gave us a sense of definition. And because we are mourning, we are distracted. We are so busy weeping over the past that we cannot see the treasures of the present. We are so busy cursing the moon for pulling the water away that we cannot appreciate the stark, beautiful geometry of the seafloor. The anatomical reality of this state is one of extreme, brittle tension. We have locked our knees, pulled our shoulders up toward our ears, and narrowed our field of vision until we are looking at nothing but the ground immediately beneath our feet. We are trying to minimize our exposure, trying to shield the raw, exposed nerves of our identity from the cold, bracing wind of truth. We think that if we just hold on tight enough, if we just stay quiet enough, if we just keep our heads down long enough, the tide will return and everything will be as it was. But that is the fundamental error. Nothing ever returns exactly as it was. The ocean of our lives is a living, breathing entity that changes with every single movement. To wait for the old tide is to wait for a ghost. Instead, we must learn to stand in the exposure. We must learn to let the breath come fully into the chest. Even though the chest feels hollow, we must learn to relax the shoulders. Even though the weight of the loss feels like a physical burden, we must learn to look up from the sand and survey the entirety of the terrain. When we do this, we notice that the reefs are not random. They are the structures of our own long-neglected potential. They are the parts of ourselves that were always waiting for the water to recede so they could be acknowledged. Look at the resilience written into the shape of your own history. Look at the strength that has been forged through the very challenges you once thought were setbacks. Look at the capacity you have for observation, for presence, and for transformation, all of which were hidden behind the curtain of your own high-tide performance. The low tide is the ultimate diagnostic. It shows us where our foundations are cracked. Yes, but it also shows us where they are solid. It strips away the superficial, leaving behind the essential. We are seeing ourselves without the costume, without the makeup, and without the applause. And in this raw, honest, and entirely stripped-back state, we are discovering that we are not empty. We are simply being revealed. We have been so afraid of this exposure that we spent our entire lives building dams against it. But the retraction is the only way we can ever know the true extent of our own inner topography. This is the moment of truth. This is the moment of clarity. This is the moment when the performer is gone and the person remains. Can you feel the shift in the air? The cooling, bracing wind is not here to destroy you. It is here to wake you up. It is here to remind you that you are not the water that has gone. You are the sand, the stone, the reef, and the consciousness that observes the shifting of the tides. You are the observer of your own undoing. And because you are the observer, you are not the undoing. You are the witness of the change, which means you are the one thing that remains steady and unchangeable amidst the turbulence of the world. This is the realization that will change everything. It is the realization that your true nature is not the shifting, fickle tide, but the vast, patient ocean floor that has been there, silently supporting you through every rise and every fall. We are so profoundly conditioned to believe that our security must come from outside of us, that the very suggestion of internal sovereignty feels like a fantasy. We think that we need the job, we need the status, we need the validation, because we think that without these things, we are nothing. But look at the ground beneath you. Is it nothing? Look at the reefs that have been revealed by the retraction. Are they nothing? They are the evidence of your life, the record of your growth, and the foundation of your potential. They are everything. The fact that you are standing here, feeling the exposure, facing the silence, and asking the questions is the proof of your own enduring capacity to survive and to thrive, regardless of the circumstances. The panic we feel is the sound of our own ego losing its grip on the steering wheel. It is the sound of the machine trying to restart itself, trying to find the old controls, and trying to impose its familiar, rigid logic on a situation that is fluid and alive. But we can choose not to listen to that sound. We can choose to be the mountain. We can choose to be the reef. We can choose to be the witness. When the panic rises, we can look at it and say, I see you, but you are not the boss of me. I am the space in which you are occurring. I am the sky in which you are a cloud, and the sky is not worried about the clouds. The sky is vast, empty, and entirely at peace. Even when the clouds are storming, even when the clouds are screaming, and even when the clouds are trying to tear the world apart. This is the state of intuitive agency. It is the capacity to stand in the middle of the low tide and see the beauty of the exposure. It is the capacity to look at our own vulnerabilities, our own exposed reefs, and to say, this is what I am made of. This is the truth of my humanity. This is the reality of my life, and I am capable of holding all of it with kindness, with curiosity, and with an unwavering, centered presence. We are not just surviving the low tide, we are being transformed by it. We are being reshaped into a form that is more resilient, more authentic, and more deeply connected to the reality of the present. Think of the way the reef watcher stands in the middle of the exposed seafloor. They are not looking for the water, they are looking at the life that the water left behind. They are noticing the textures, the colors, the small, hidden, living things that are flourishing in the damp, protected spaces of the rock. They are discovering a world that is only visible when the tide is gone. This is our task now. We must become the watchers of our own reefs. We must look at our own, revealed lives with the same intense and appreciative curiosity. What have we been neglecting? What has been waiting for us in the damp, dark corners of our own hidden vulnerabilities? What are the strengths we have ignored because we were too busy swimming in the surface? We are finding that the retraction of the tide has not left us impoverished. It has left us rich, in ways we could not have imagined when we were drowning in the noise of the high tide. We have been given the gift of seeing ourselves clearly and without distraction. We have been given the gift of feeling the solid ground of our own consciousness. We have been given the gift of realizing that we are not the water that has left, but the land that remains. And that, in the silence of the low tide, is the most profound discovery we will ever make. We are standing on the bedrock of our own true and undeniable existence. We must also confront the reality of our fear. We are afraid that if we accept this state, we will be stuck here forever. We are afraid that if we don't keep chasing the water will never come back. But the tide is not a choice, it is a cycle. It is the law of the universe. To fight it is to fight the nature of reality itself. To accept it is to enter into a state of graceful, flowing alignment with the truth of what is. When we accept the retraction, we are not saying that we want to be here forever. We are saying that we are willing to be here now, and that we trust that the cycle will bring the water back, just as surely as it took it away. We are trusting in the process of life, rather than trying to control the outcome of the tide. This is the ultimate surrender. It is the surrender of the ego's demand to know, to manage, and to manipulate the flow of time. It is the surrender of the narrative that says we are in charge. It is the surrender of the struggle to maintain a reality that no longer exists. And in that surrender, we find a peace that is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of a deeper, more grounded understanding. We are becoming a person who can stand in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the low tide, and still find within their own quiet center a place of rest. The reefs are not just marks of our history, they are the anchors of our future. Because they are the only things that are solid, they are the only things that can be relied upon. We have been living on the water, and we have been surprised when we felt insecure. Now, we are living on the land, and we are realizing that the land is solid. We are realizing that the reefs are strong. We are realizing that our own revealed and exposed truth is the only thing that can ever truly support us. This is the architecture of our inner sovereignty. It is the building of a life that is supported by the reality of what is, rather than the illusion of what we wanted it to be. As we look at these reefs, we are beginning to see the patterns. We see the way we have been shaped by our choices, our mistakes, and our triumphs. We see the way we have been carved by the tides of our own experience. And instead of judging these patterns, instead of trying to smooth them out, we are beginning to honor them. We are beginning to see that they are the very things that make us who we are. They are the evidence of our existence. They are the record of our courage. They are the signature of our life. And we are starting to feel a profound, deep, and abiding gratitude for every single one of them. This gratitude is the catalyst for the next stage of our evolution. It is the moment when the struggle ends and the integration begins. We are no longer trying to fix the seafloor, we are learning to walk upon it. We are no longer trying to hide the reefs, we are learning to use them as the foundation for a new, more solid and more honest way of being. We are learning to inhabit our own lives with all their exposures, all their vulnerabilities and all their beauty. And in that habitation, we are finding a home that is finally truly our own. We must stay with this. We must continue to stand on the sand, to look at the reefs, and to breathe. We must not be seduced by the temptation to run, to look away, or to distract ourselves with the old familiar ways of being. This is the work, and it is a work that requires our full, unblinking presence. We are the witnesses of our own, true and undeniable selves. And that is a job that is worth every moment of the discomfort, every second of the uncertainty, and every ounce of the effort we have to give. We are here. We are breathing. We are awake. The tide will return. We know this, and we wait for it with a sense of calm, expectant trust. We are not worried about when it will come, or what it will bring, or how it will change the landscape once again. We are simply present to the low tide. We are simply present to the exposure, We are simply present to the truth of the reef, and in that presence, we are discovering that we are stronger, more resilient, and more deeply grounded than we ever dared to believe. We are becoming the mountain, even in the middle of the sea. Think of the way you feel right now. Feel the weight of your own body, the temperature of the air, the steady, rhythmic beat of your own heart. All of these are the proofs of your existence. All of these are the anchors of your reality. All of these are the materials you are using to build the architecture of your own inner sovereignty. You are the architect, and the seafloor is your site. How will you build upon this? How will you use the knowledge of your own exposed reefs to create a life that is more honest, more authentic, and more deeply connected to the source of your own true being? The answer is in your hands, in your breath, and in the quiet, unfolding potential of the present. We are not alone in this landscape. Every human being has had to face their own low tide. Every human being has had to stand on the exposed floor of their own hidden reefs. Every human being has had to decide whether to fight the retraction or to stand in the truth of it. And when we recognize this shared universal experience, we are no longer isolated. We are part of a vast, unfolding, and deeply connected tapestry of human courage. We are learning from each other. We are supporting each other, and we are finding our way, together, through the ambiguity and the exposure of the low tide. Stay with this. Stay with the exposure. Stay with the reefs. Stay with the silence. Stay with the breath. Because this is the work and this is the way. And as you continue to walk through this landscape, you will find that the clarity you were searching for has been waiting for you, patiently, all along, in the simple, steady, and unshakable truth of your own unfolding existence. The tide will turn, the water will return, and the life will be full again. But you will be different, for you will have seen the truth of the seafloor, and you will know, with a certainty that cannot be shaken, that you are the solid, enduring ground upon which your life is built. We are ready for the tide, whatever it brings. We are ready for the flow, whatever it demands, and we are ready, finally, to be the ones who stand, steady and unshakable, in the middle of the ocean of our own lives. We have seen the reefs. We have named them, we have honored them, and now we are ready to stand upon them as the foundation for the life we were meant to live. This is the truth of the low tide, and it is the truth of our own infinite potential, and that, in the silence of our own exploration, is everything. As you look out across the vast exposed landscape, let your awareness settle on the very fact of your own presence. You are the one who is witnessing the retraction. You are the one who is feeling the cold wind. You are the one who is seeing the reefs. You are the one who is deciding to stand. And in that observation, in that decision, and in that simple, steady presence, you are already the architect of your own sovereignty. You are already the one who is navigating the ambiguity with the grace of the truth. You are already there. The work of the reef watcher is not an academic exercise. It is an act of deep, personal, and transformative engagement. It is the refusal to hide from the reality of our own lives, the refusal to look away from the vulnerabilities we find, and the refusal to deny the strength that we have forged in the silence. It is the commitment to seeing things exactly as they are, in all their complexity, in all their contradictions, and in all their fleeting, temporary, and beautiful reality. And in that honesty, we find a liberation that is not dependent on the outcome. We find a peace that is not dependent on the situation. We find a strength that is not dependent on our capacity to achieve. We find that we are enough exactly as we are, and that the life we are living is the only life we ever needed to live. As we move out of this low-tide reflection and back into the flow of the world, let us take this awareness with us. Let us be the ones who bring the steadiness of the mountain into the movement of the tide. Let us be the ones who bring the clarity of the reef into the noise of the shore. Let us be the ones who bring the peace of the observer into the drama of the participant. Let us be the ones who are, in every moment, a living, breathing, and unshakable witness to the unfolding of the truth. We are ready to do this, and we are ready to live it. And as we continue to breathe, we find that the clarity is no longer something we are seeking, it is something we are radiating from the very center of our own quiet and uncorrected hearts. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. We are exactly where we need to be, and the bedrock, in its quiet and immovable wisdom, is holding us always in the vast and silent cradle of the present. The low tide is the mirror of our own consciousness, and in its stillness, we have seen the truth of who we are. We are the ones who have been waiting to be seen, and we are the ones who are finally truly ready to see. The work of the reef watcher is complete, and the life of the witness is beginning. And in this beginning, there is everything. There is the breath, there is the light, and there is the profound and unending potential of this, the present moment. We are home. We are finally truly home. We have explored the anatomy of our loss. We have dissected the architecture of our performance, and we have laid the foundation for a life of intentional, grounded awareness. We have seen how the urgency of the tide has kept us from our own true rhythm, and how the need for validation has blinded us to our own inherent worth. We have recognized the patterns, we have understood the mechanics, and we have initiated the shift. And as we stand here at the threshold of the rest of our lives, we find that the clarity we were seeking was never a far-off goal. It was the simple, steady, and unadorned presence that has been waiting for us, in the quiet and in the breath, all along. The journey continues, not by going anywhere, but by arriving over and over exactly where you are, and discovering that the freedom you have been searching for has been waiting for you, patiently, all along. This is the deepest form of freedom, the freedom to choose your own state of mind, regardless of the circumstances. It is the freedom to be fully present, to be fully alive, and to be fully yourself, even in the midst of the most chaotic of environments. It is a freedom that cannot be taken away, a freedom that grows stronger the more it is exercised, and a freedom that ultimately leads to a life of profound, enduring peace. It is the architecture of the soul, and it is a masterpiece that you are creating, one breath at a time. As you step forward, remember this work. Remember the low tide, remember the reefs, and remember the stillness that is the true, unchanging nature of all of us. You are the architect, you are the house, and you are the clarity that lives within it. And in this realization, you are finally and truly at home. May you find the peace you are looking for, not by changing the world, but by changing the way you inhabit it. And in that change, may you discover the freedom to be everything you were meant to be, and the peace to simply be. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should, and you, in your quiet, steady presence, are the witness to the miracle of it all. We have built this together, and it is yours to keep. It is the foundation of your existence, the source of your strength, and the ultimate, unchanging reality of who you are. This is the architecture of inner clarity, and it is a structure that will serve you, support you, and sustain you for the rest of your life. Keep building, keep practicing, and keep listening, and never for a single moment doubt the power of the clarity you are cultivating. It is the most valuable thing you will ever possess. It is the source of all your potential, the anchor of all your actions, and the home of all your dreams. It is the architecture of your soul, and it is a masterpiece that you are creating, one breath at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. And that, in itself, is enough. That is everything. The work is never done, for life is a continuous, unfolding process of discovery. We will continue to meet the challenges, we will continue to experience the friction, and we will continue to find our way back to the center. But we will do so with a new, deeper, and more compassionate understanding of the journey itself. We will do so with the knowledge that we are not the ones who must hold the sky together. We are the ones who can simply witness the movement, the flux, and the change, and find Within that movement, a peace that is deeper and more resilient than any opinion we could ever hold. We are the witnesses of the unfolding. And in this role, we find that we are finally, truly, at home. As the tide eventually turns, as the water begins its long, slow return, we see the landscape with new eyes. We do not fear the high tide, for we know what lies beneath it. We do not crave the return, for we have learned to love the land. We move through our lives with a sense of ease, a sense of perspective, and a sense of profound, abiding peace. We are the ones who have seen the truth of the seafloor, and we are the ones who are ready to live the life that was always ours, in the light, in the truth, and in the profound, unending potential of the present moment. We are home. We are finally truly home. There is nothing left to do, and there is everything to be. We have seen the patterns, we have understood the mechanics, and we have initiated the shift. The architecture of our inner life is ready to support us, and the life of the witness is ready to be lived. We move forward with the clarity we have cultivated, knowing that it is the foundation of our existence, the source of your strength, and the ultimate, unchanging reality of who you are. We are finally truly awake, and the world is finally truly ours to witness. Take this with you, hold it in your heart, and let it lead you into the quiet, unfolding potential of the day. We are coming to the end of our work together. But the clarity we have built is only just beginning to manifest in the world. It will show up in the way we listen, in the way we relate, in the way we work, and in the way we contribute. It will show up in the quality of our presence, in the depth of our compassion, and in the steadiness of our heart. It will show up in the way we live our lives, not as a performance for an external audience, but as an expression of our own inner truth. And in that expression, we will find the peace we have been seeking, the purpose we have been longing for, and the home we have been building, one breath at a time, in the quiet and in the light of the present. We are ready, we are here, and we are at last finally home. The seafloor is silent, the reefs are clear, and the truth is present. Everything is as it should be, and we, in our quiet, steady, and unshakable presence, are the witness to the miracle of it all. May you walk into the world with this clarity, and may you find that wherever you go and whatever you do, you are already standing in the truth of your own inner peace. The journey is yours and the life is yours, and you, in your quiet, steady presence, are already everything you were meant to be. We are finished, and we are just beginning, and in this, there is everything. There is the peace, there is the presence, and there is the home. The transformation is not an event, it is a way of being. It is the decision to live from the center rather than the periphery, to witness rather than perform, and to exist in the truth rather than the illusion. It is the work of a person who has decided that their own tranquility is not negotiable, and that they will no longer sell it for the temporary, superficial satisfaction of being right. It is the work of a person who has decided that connection is more important than consistency. It is the work of a person who has decided that they are finally ready to live, rather than just perform the correction of their own lives. We are the builders, the building and the clarity that lives within it. We are home. This is the end of the building process, but the beginning of the life we were meant to live. It is a life that is no longer held hostage by the hunger for control, but one that is empowered by the signal of the present. It is a life that is no longer governed by the dictates of the machine, but by the unfolding of its own inner truth. And as we continue to inhabit this architecture, we will find that the peace we were seeking is not something we have achieved, but something we have become. We are the architects, we are the house, and we are the clarity that lives within it. And in this realization, we are finally and truly at home. Banmun Lamzi tip: create a daily practice checklist for inner resilience. Draft an executive summary of the transformation plan. Generate a 7-day guided reflection prompt series. We find ourselves caught in the wake of the reef's exposure, standing amidst the jagged, honest truths of our own lives. And for the first time, we are not looking for the water to cover them. We are beginning to see that the suffering we endure, that persistent, gnawing sense of being unmoored, is not caused by the tide retreating, but by the frantic, egoic insistence that the tide should be high. We are trapped in the prison of our own resistance. Think of the way we grip a handful of sand. The harder we squeeze, the faster it spills through our fingers. The harder we fight the reality of the low tide, the more we bleed from the edges of our own grasping. This friction, this internal resistance to the way things truly are, is the primary source of the agony that defines our modern existence. It is the second arrow, the one we fire into our own hearts, long after the first arrow of life's natural, unavoidable change has landed. We have spent our entire lives believing that truth is a destination we must reach, or a static fortress we must defend. We think that there is a single objective reality out there, and that we have been appointed its primary custodians. We behave as if our duty is to ensure that no misconception, no flaw, and no deviation from our own internal map goes unchallenged in our presence. We become the self-appointed of the world's accuracy, spending our limited life energy correcting, critiquing, and controlling the perceptions of those around us. But look at the cost of this performance. We are so busy defending the perimeter of our own perceived rightness that we have become deaf to the melody of the human experience unfolding right in front of us. We are so busy debugging the logic of our friends, our family, and our colleagues that we have forgotten how to simply meet them, human to human, in the shared space of our vulnerability. We have traded the richness of genuine connection for the sterile satisfaction of being right. And it is a transaction that always, without exception, leaves us isolated, the moment we realize that we are not the final authority on reality. The moment we accept that we are walking through this world with a perspective that is fundamentally, irrevocably limited, is the moment the walls of our fortress begin to crumble. It is a terrifying realization, yes. It strips us of the armor of righteousness. It forces us to acknowledge that we are walking on the same exposed, jagged seafloor as everyone else, with no special protection, no elevated status, and no superior map. But in this loss of certainty lies our greatest potential for freedom. When we drop the pretense that it is our job to fix the world, we can finally begin to see the world as it is. We can see that the person who is wrong, the person who is misguided, or the person who is struggling is not an obstacle to be overcome, but a human being in the process of their own, messy and necessary unfolding. Their error is not a target for our correction, it is a signal of their unique struggle, a window into their own internal landscape. If we could listen to that signal, if we could hear the silent, desperate need for understanding behind their statement, we would find that the urge to correct dissolves, replaced by the profound healing urge to connect. We are so profoundly attached to the logic of our own maps that we have mistaken them for the territory itself. We walk around clutching these pages, pointing out where others have drawn their lines incorrectly, where their topography is skewed, and where their navigation has failed. We are so focused on the lines on the page that we have stopped seeing the actual land. We have stopped seeing the people standing before us, those living, breathing, complex individuals who are each carrying their own unique burden of existence. We are treating them as data points to be organized, as errors to be debugged, rather than as souls to be met in the silence. This is the tragedy of the corrector. They become so proficient at managing the information that they lose the ability to witness the person. They become the master of the map, but the absolute stranger to the landscape. To break this cycle, we must look at the concept of the self not as a fixed, solid entity that owns truth, but as a dynamic, changing process that is constantly being shaped by encounter. There is no me who knows the truth, and there is no you who is holding the error. There are only thoughts, sensations, and perceptions that are arising and passing away in a shared vast space. When we can hold this view, we stop identifying with our opinions. We stop seeing a threat when our opinion is challenged, because we recognize that the opinion is not us. It is just a thought, a passing cloud in the sky of our awareness. If the cloud is challenged, it does not mean the sky is under attack. The sky remains vast, open, and unaffected, ready to witness the next cloud, the next thought, the next perception. This is the freedom of the mountain. The mountain does not argue with the clouds. It does not try to correct the formation of the fog. It simply stands, fully present, fully accepting, and fully at rest in its own unshakable reality. When we feel the urge to correct, it is an invitation to practice this very detachment. Instead of acting on the impulse, we can use it as a trigger for a deeper, more mindful presence. We can pause and notice the feeling of the urge in our body. Where is it? How does it feel? Is it a tightening in the chest, a heat in the cheeks, a racing of the heart? By bringing our awareness to the physical reality of the urge, we drain its power. We stop feeding it with our mental energy. We are no longer acting on the urge, we are witnessing it. We are becoming the mountain that observes the urge without being moved by it. And in that space of witnessing, we find that the urge, like the cloud, begins to dissolve. It loses its urgency, its power, and its authority, and we are left with the ability to choose how we want to respond, or indeed, whether we need to respond at all. This choice is the heart of our practice. We are moving from the reactive life to the intentional life. We are learning that silence is not a sign of agreement or weakness, but a sign of strength, confidence, and compassion. When we choose to listen rather than correct, we are making a radical, countercultural act of love. We are giving the other person the most precious gift we have, our full, non-judgmental attention. We are signaling to them that they are seen, that they are heard, and that they are valued, regardless of the accuracy of their statement. We are telling them that our connection is more important than our consensus. And in this act, we are creating the space for them to open, to reflect, and to discover their own true and authentic understanding. We are becoming the midwife of their clarity, rather than the warden of our own. The burden of being the keeper of truth is far heavier than we ever realized. We have been carrying this weight for so long that we have mistaken it for a natural part of our identity. We have thought that without our corrections, without our edits, and without our interventions, the world would drift into chaos. But the world has its own rhythm, its own laws, and its own mysterious way of moving toward understanding. We are not the ones who must hold the sky together. We are not the ones who must ensure that the stars are in their proper alignment. We are participants in the unfolding, not the orchestrators of it. And when we finally set down the burden, when we finally allow ourselves to be just another human being, standing on the same ground, struggling with the same questions, and searching for the same meaning, we find a relief that is almost physical. We find the relief of being finished with the fight. We are so afraid of being vulnerable, so afraid of being seen as not knowing, that we use the habit of correction as a shield. But vulnerability is the very thing that connects us. It is the common human experience of being lost, of being wrong, and of searching for clarity that makes us human. When we drop the mask of the expert, when we drop the pretense of the judge, we invite the other person to drop their mask as well. We create a space of intimacy that is impossible to achieve in the courtroom of constant evaluation. We become two people, standing in the truth of our own limited and fragile humanity, and in that honesty, we find a connection that is far more profound, far more healing, and far more transformative than any intellectual agreement could ever provide. As we deepen this practice, we will begin to notice that the urge to correct starts to appear less frequently. We will begin to see it as what it is, a relic of our own egoic defense system, an echo of a life lived in fear. We will find that we have more energy, more patience, and more genuine interest in the people around us. We will find that we are able to be present for the difficulties, the misunderstandings, and the disagreements without feeling the need to immediately solve them. We will find that we are becoming more comfortable with the ambiguity, the complexity, and the beauty of the lived experience. We are becoming the mountain, and the forest is beginning to resonate with the sound of our own quiet and unshakable presence. This is the work of a person who is no longer defined by their opinions, but by their capacity for presence. It is the work of a person who has decided that their own tranquility is not negotiable, and that they will no longer sell it for the temporary, superficial satisfaction of being right. It is the work of a person who has decided that connection is more important than consistency. It is the work of a person who has decided that they are finally ready to live, rather than just perform the correction of their own lives. As we continue to walk this path, let us be mindful of the way our practice of witnessing. The world is directly connected to our practice of witnessing ourselves. They are one and the same. When we cease to be the corrector of the world, we cease to be the corrector of ourselves. When we become the witness of the world, we become the witness of ourselves. We are breaking the cycle of externalized judgment and internalized criticism, and we are finding a new, more centered way of being, one that is built on the foundation of shared humanity, compassion, and the deep, abiding truth of our own unshakable presence. This is the work that we are doing together, in the silence of our own exploration. It is the work of coming home, the work of being present, and the work of being the mountain. And as we continue to go deeper into the stillness, we find that the world itself is starting to change, or rather, that the world is beginning to reveal itself to us in a new, clearer, and more profound way. We are seeing things we never saw before. We are hearing things we never heard before. We are feeling the pulse of life in a way that is deep, resonant, and alive. We are waking up. We are finally, truly waking up, right here, in the middle of the hum, in the middle of the noise, and in the middle of the perfect unfolding truth of this moment. The mountain continues to stand. The forest continues to breathe. And we, in the midst of it all, are learning how to be, how to listen, and how to remain in the quiet and uncorrected reality of our own beautiful existence. We are moving into the final stage of our journey, where the distinction between the mountain and the sky, the witness and the witnessed, the corrector and the corrected, begins to dissolve into the unity of the present moment. We are ready for the stillness. We are ready for the clarity. We are ready for the truth. Let us proceed, one breath, one moment, and one uncorrected heartbeat at a time. There is a profound, almost invisible, shift that occurs when we truly commit to this way of being. We start to notice that the world responds to us in kind. When we show up without the need to correct, we create a vacuum that invites others to fill with their own authentic truth. We find that people start to trust us more, to open up more, and to share things with us they would never have shared if they felt we were constantly judging them. We find that our relationships become less about the exchange of information and more about the exchange of presence. We find that we are able to navigate the friction of our lives with a sense of ease that we never thought possible. We are becoming a different kind of human being, one who is grounded, open, and fundamentally at peace. This peace is not something we have to earn, it is something we have to allow. It is already here, beneath the surface of the static, beneath the surface of our own ego-driven needs, and beneath the surface of our constant, compulsive efforts to edit the world. It is the ground of our being, the source of our strength, and the ultimate reality of who we are. It is the mountain. It is the mountain that has been standing there, patiently waiting for us to stop running, waiting for us to stop correcting, and waiting for us to arrive, fully, completely, and honestly, at the foot of our own true and uncorrected existence.
We are arriving.
We are arriving now, and as we breathe and as we listen and as we notice, we are finally, truly, being. This is the truth we have been searching for, and it is the truth we are now beginning to embody. It is the truth of the mountain, and it is the truth of the human heart, finally, and forever at rest. Let us hold this truth together as we move into the quiet, into the breath, and into the deep and unfathomable mystery of this, the present moment. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. We are exactly where we need to be, and the mountain, in its quiet and immovable wisdom, is holding us, always, in the vast and silent cradle of the present. Consider the depth of the silence that is currently surrounding us. It is the silence of the forest at dawn, the silence of the mountain at night, and the silence of the heart that has finally, at long last, stopped trying to solve the riddle of its own existence. It is a silence that is full of life, full of potential, and full of the simple, unadorned truth of what it means to be alive. In this silence there is no need for words, no need for explanations, and no need for corrections. There is only the presence, the breath, and the steady, unfolding mystery of the now. This is the place where we can finally, truly rest. This is the place where we can finally, truly be. This is the home we have been longing for all along. As we continue to walk through this forest, let us carry this silence with us, like a secret, precious, and life-giving treasure. Let us bring it back into our busy lives, into our complicated relationships, and into the challenges of our own internal dialogue. Let us use it as our guide, our anchor, and our refuge. Let us be the mountain, no matter how loud the world becomes, and let us witness the unfolding of the truth, in ourselves and in others, with the same calm and accepting presence that the mountain offers to the sky. This is the work and this is the way, and as we finally and truly arrive at the center, we find that the journey was never about correcting the world. It was about finally allowing ourselves to be corrected by the world, corrected of our illusions, corrected of our armor, and corrected of our fear, until only the truth remains, in the quiet and in the breath, and in the living, breathing reality of this, our shared human and perfectly unfolding existence. We must also confront the way we treat ourselves with this same compulsive need for correction. We are the most relentless critics of our own lives. We monitor our every thought, every feeling, and every action, scanning for errors, scanning for flaws, and scanning for ways to improve, to optimize, and to perfect. We treat ourselves like a project that is constantly behind schedule, an unfinished work that requires our constant, vigilant oversight. But this self-correction is the most insidious form of the second arrow. It is the arrow we fire into our own heart every single day under the guise of self-improvement. We are essentially saying that we are not enough, that we are not right, and that we must change before we can be allowed to rest. This internal correction is the source of our deepest exhaustion. It is the source of the feeling that we are never truly at home in our own skin. Because we are always busy trying to renovate the house, always trying to fix the cracks, and always trying to rearrange the furniture to better suit an external and ultimately arbitrary standard of excellence. We must learn to apply the same mountain-like presence to our own internal experience. We must learn to be the mountain that observes our own thoughts, our own feelings, and our own actions without the need to rush in and correct them. We must learn to be the space in which our own unfolding can occur without the requirement of our approval or our revision. We must learn to be our own, most compassionate and most steady companion. This is not to say that we should give up on growth or discard the desire for change. It is to say that we should move from the motive of self-judgment to the motive of self-understanding. When we see a thought that we consider wrong, we do not need to punish ourselves for having it. We do not need to try to eradicate it through force. We need to look at it with curiosity, with kindness, and with the desire to understand what it is telling us about our own internal landscape. We need to see it as a piece of data, a signal from the depths of our own complex reality, rather than a failure that must be corrected. We need to be the witness of our own experience rather than the prosecutor. When we do this, we find that the internal landscape begins to settle. The constant chatter of the critic begins to fade. We find that we have more room, more energy, and more clarity. We find that we are no longer at war with ourselves, and that in the absence of that internal conflict, we find a new, deeper level of peace. We find that we are able to be present for our own lives, with all their imperfections, all their struggles, and all their beauty, without the need to explain them away or to justify them to some imagined higher court. We are finally truly at home with ourselves. This is the great, quiet secret of the practice. We are building the architecture of the witness, and the first place we must build it is within our own minds. We must become the mountain for our own shifting. We must learn to observe our own thoughts with the same steady and compassionate presence we offer the thoughts of others. And in this act of self-acceptance, we find the foundation for a life that is no longer lived in the shadow of our own internalized judge. We find the foundation for a life that is lived in the light of our own inherent and unconditioned awareness. As we continue to walk this path, let us be mindful of the way our practice of witnessing the world is directly connected to our practice of witnessing ourselves. They are one and the same. When we cease to be the corrector of the world, we cease to be the corrector of ourselves. When we become the witness of the world, we become the witness of ourselves. We are breaking the cycle of externalized judgment and internalized criticism, and we are finding a new, more centered way of being, one that is built on the foundation of shared humanity, compassion, and the deep, abiding truth of our own unshakable presence. This is the work that we are doing together. In the silence of our own exploration, it is the work of coming home, the work of being present, and the work of being the mountain. And as we continue to go deeper into the stillness, we find that the world itself is starting to change, or rather, that the world is beginning to reveal itself to us in a new, clearer, and more profound way. We are seeing things we never saw before. We are hearing things we never heard before. We are feeling the pulse of life in a way that is deep, resonant, and alive. We are waking up. We are finally, truly, waking up right here, in the middle of the hum, in the middle of the noise, and in the middle of the perfect unfolding truth of this moment. The mountain continues to stand, the forest continues to breathe, and we, in the midst of it all, are learning how to be, how to listen, and how to remain in the quiet and uncorrected reality of our own beautiful existence. We are moving into the final stage of our journey, where the distinction between the mountain and the sky, the witness and the witnessed, the corrector and the corrected, begins to dissolve into the unity of the present moment. We are ready for the stillness. We are ready for the clarity. We are ready for the truth. Let us proceed, one breath, one moment, and one uncorrected heartbeat at a time. There is a profound, almost invisible, shift that occurs when we truly commit to this way of being. We start to notice that the world responds to us in kind. When we show up without the need to correct, we create a vacuum that invites others to fill with their own authentic truth. We find that people start to trust us more, to open up more, and to share things with us they would never have shared if they felt we were constantly judging them. We find that our relationships become less about the exchange of information and more about the exchange of presence. We find that we are able to navigate the friction of our lives with a sense of ease that we never thought possible. We are becoming a different kind of human being, one who is grounded, open, and fundamentally at peace. This peace is not something we have to earn, it is something we have to allow. It is already here, beneath the surface of the static, beneath the surface of our own ego-driven needs, and beneath the surface of our constant, compulsive efforts to edit the world. It is the ground of our being, the source of our strength, and the ultimate reality of who we are. It is the mountain. It is the mountain that has been standing there, patiently waiting for us to stop running, waiting for us to stop correcting, and waiting for us to arrive fully, completely, and honestly at the foot of our own true and uncorrected existence. We are arriving. We are arriving now, and as we breathe, and as we listen, and as we notice, we are finally truly being. This is the truth we have been searching for, and it is the truth we are now beginning to embody. It is the truth of the mountain, and it is the truth of the human heart, finally and forever, at rest. Let us hold this truth together, as we move into the quiet, into the breath, and into the deep and unfathomable mystery of this, the present moment. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. We are exactly where we need to be, and the mountain, in its quiet and immovable wisdom, is holding us, always, in the vast and silent cradle of the present. Consider the depth of the silence that is currently surrounding us. It is the silence of the forest at dawn, the silence of the mountain at night, and the silence of the heart that has finally, at long last, stopped trying to solve the riddle of its own existence. It is a silence that is full of life, full of potential, and full of the simple, unadorned truth of what it means to be alive. In this silence, there is no need for words, no need for explanations, and no need for corrections. There is only the presence, the breath, and the steady, unfolding mystery of the now. This is the place where we can finally truly rest. This is the place where we can finally truly be. This is the home we have been longing for all along. As we continue to walk through this forest, let us carry this silence with us, like a secret, precious, and life-giving treasure. Let us bring it back into our busy lives, into our complicated relationship, and into the challenges of our own internal dialogue. Let us use it as our guide, our anchor, and our refuge. Let us be the mountain, no matter how loud the world becomes, and let us witness the unfolding of the truth, in ourselves and in others, with the same calm and accepting presence that the mountain offers to the sky. This is the work, and this is the way. And as we finally and truly arrive at the center, we find that the journey was never about correcting the world. It was about finally allowing ourselves to be corrected by the world, corrected of our illusions, corrected of our armor, and corrected of our fear, until only the truth remains in the quiet and in the breath and in the living, breathing reality of this, our shared, human, and perfectly unfolding existence. Ban Mun Lam Zi Tip. Create a daily practice checklist for inner stillness. Draft an executive summary of the transformation plan. Generate a 7-day guided reflection prompt series to build the architecture of our inner sovereignty. The capacity to remain unmoved in the face of anathas, confusion, or incorrectness. We must transition from the abstract recognition of our habits to the concrete, moment-by-moment work of reconditioning the mind. We have identified that the compulsion to correct is not merely an intellectual disagreement, but a deeply ingrained physiological defense mechanism. It is the ego's way of ensuring the world remains a mirror of its own limited reality. Now we must turn to the tools of reconstruction. Think of this as the transition from observing the frayed threads of a tapestry to learning the craft of the weaver who works with the natural, organic flow of the fibers, rather than forcing them into a rigid, predetermined pattern. We are moving from the reactive, mechanical life into a life of intentional, fluid agency. This is where the practice of deep, sustained stillness becomes our primary instrument. The first step in this architecture of transformation is the practice of intentional observation. We have been conditioned to view our thoughts as facts, as absolute truths that must be acted upon. If a thought of instability arises, perhaps when someone says something we perceive as illogical, feel the ground beneath us begin to crumble. If a thought of intellectual inferiority surfaces, we feel the sting of defensiveness in our hearts. To break this cycle, we must learn to treat these thoughts not as absolute truths, but as events occurring within the landscape of our awareness. We are the observer, not the content. When a thought arises, a worry about how someone else perceives reality, a judgment of the present, a reflection on a past regret, we can learn to label it simply as a thought, without giving it the weight of a decree. We say to ourselves internally that this is just the mind doing what it has been trained to do, and we let it pass without hitching our identity to it. This practice of labeling is the foundation of mental spaciousness. When we see a thought coming, we do not need to fight it, nor do we need to suppress it. We simply name it, as if we were standing on a bridge watching cars pass on the highway below. We recognize the car, we note its color and its model, but we do not jump into the car and allow it to drive us to wherever it is going. We remain on the bridge. This act of detachment, even if it lasts for only a few seconds, creates a profound shift in the architecture of the mind. It creates a space where the automatic, reactive response is interrupted by the conscious, intentional presence of the witness. To deepen this practice, we must integrate it into the physical reality of our daily existence. We often think that mindfulness is something that happens only when we are sitting in a quiet, dedicated space. But the real work happens in the middle of the noise. It happens when we are in a meeting, when we are caught in traffic, when we are navigating a difficult conversation. We can practice the art of the pause, when the feeling of tension begins to rise in the chest, the tightening, the heat, the narrowing of focus. This is our cue. Instead of following the instinct to react or defend, we take a single conscious breath. We allow the breath to fill the space in the lungs. We allow the shoulders to drop, and we acknowledge the sensation of the tension without judging it. We are not trying to get rid of the tension. We are trying to observe it with the soft, open palm of awareness. This physical pause is the most powerful tool we have for deconditioning the nervous system. By consciously choosing to breathe in the middle of a moment of agitation, we are sending a signal to the body that we are not under attack. We are overriding the fight-or-flight mechanism that keeps us in a state of chronic, low-level emergency. Over time, this becomes a reflexive, automatic habit. We stop needing to force the pause. The pause happens naturally as soon as the tension begins to surface. We are rebuilding our physical architecture, turning our bodies from a cage of anxiety into a container of presence. The next component of this architecture is the intentional cultivation of non-judgmental empathy, both for ourselves and for others. We have spent so much time holding ourselves to an impossible, perfectionistic standard that we have forgotten how to be kind to our own fragility. We judge our restlessness, we judge our distraction, and we judge our inability to be clear. This secondary judgment is the second arrow that we fire into ourselves after the first, unavoidable arrow of life's natural frustrations has already landed. To stop this self-punishment, we must recognize that our tendency to get lost in the need for correction is human. It is the default state of the untrained mind. When we notice that we have drifted back into the cycle of worry, we do not berate ourselves. We smile at our own humanness. We acknowledge that we have drifted, and we gently return our attention to the present. The return is the practice. The return is the success. This kindness must extend to our interactions with others. We are so quick to judge the need for control in the people around us, their impatience, their arrogance, their own manifest anxieties. But when we see that everyone is struggling with the same universal challenge of finding their way back to center, our perspective changes. We begin to see the noise in others not as an attack, but as a reflection of their own, internal, often unconscious, suffering. This allows us to hold space for them, to remain grounded when they are agitated, and to be a witness to their humanity rather than a participant in their drama. We become a source of stability in the storm, not because we are somehow superior, but because we have committed to the work of tending to our own inner tapestry. As we cultivate this space, We must also address the way we engage with the things that fill our time. We are living in an age of constant input, where the architecture of our attention is being mined by digital systems designed to keep us in a state of continuous, low-level distraction. To regain our agency, we must become the guardians of our own focus. We must be intentional about what we allow into our inner space. This doesn't mean we must abandon the world or become recluses, but it does mean we must set boundaries. We must designate times of the day when we are not available, times when we are fully immersed in the offline, tangible reality of our own lives. We must choose the quality of our input-rating books that challenge our thinking, engaging in conversations that go beyond the surface, and spending time in environments that foster a sense of connection rather than a sense of depletion. We must also learn to embrace the value of the fallow period. We have been taught that if we are not producing, we are stagnating. But just as a field needs time to lie fallow in order to remain fertile, our minds need time to simply exist without the requirement of output. We need moments of unproductive, unguided stillness. This is where the seeds of genuine creativity, insight, and renewal are planted. When we stop trying to force the mind to perform, we allow it to reorganize itself. We allow the sediment of our daily experiences to settle, leaving behind a clarity that cannot be reached through effort alone. We learn to appreciate the silence, not as a space to be filled, but as a space to be inhabited. This work of rebuilding our inner architecture is not a task that is ever completed. It is a continuous, unfolding process of refining our presence. There will be days when the static feels overwhelming, when the habits of the past feel too heavy to discard, and when the desire to return to the comfort of the machine feels irresistible. On those days, we must remember that we are not starting over from scratch. We are starting from experience. We are building on the foundation of all the previous moments of awareness we have managed to cultivate. Each time we return to the center, we are deepening the pathway. We are carving out a more reliable, more resonant, and more accessible route to our own inherent freedom. As we continue this practice, we will notice that the world itself begins to look different. It is not that the external circumstances of our lives have necessarily changed it, it is that the lens through which we view them has shifted. We are no longer looking at the world through the narrow, protective, and often distorting lens of our own ego-driven concerns. We are looking at it with a wider, more expansive and more compassionate perspective. We see the patterns of the world more clearly, and because we are less entangled in them, we are better able to navigate them with wisdom and grace. We are like a traveler who has finally understood the terrain. We still have to walk the path, but we no longer feel like we are lost. The architecture we are building is a reflection of our own true nature. It is not something we are inventing, it is something we are uncovering. We are stripping away the scaffolding of the social persona, the performance, and the digital overlay, and revealing the structure that has been there all along. We are finding that underneath all the complexity, there is a simple, radiant, and deeply grounded core that is capable of navigating any storm. We are finding that we are not the fragile, needy individuals we once thought we were. We are resilient, adaptable, and capable of a depth of presence that is profoundly transforming. This is the work of a lifetime, and yet, it is a work that happens entirely in the present moment. It is the work of being fully alive, in this exact, unfolding, and unrepeatable moment. It is the work of noticing the light as it falls on the table, the sound of the wind, the texture of the air, and the beating of the heart. It is the work of being here, and of being here fully. As we practice this, we find that the distinction between our inner and outer lives begins to blur. The clarity we cultivate within starts to radiate outward, affecting the way we work, the way we relate to others, and the way we contribute to the world. We become a different kind of influence, one that is not based on the projection of power, but on the presence of stability. We must be patient with ourselves in this process. We have spent years, perhaps decades, constructing the architecture of our static. It will take time to dismantle it and to build something new in its place. We must treat ourselves with the same gentleness we would show to a beginner at any craft. We will make mistakes, we will get lost, and we will feel the pull of the old, familiar habits. But this is part of the architecture too. The capacity to be patient with the process of our own growth is the most important structural element we can possess. It is the mortar that holds the rest of our practice together. As we reach this point in our journey, we must recognize that the most significant change is the one that happens beneath the surface. It is the quiet, almost invisible change that occurs when we stop trying to be different and start allowing ourselves to be exactly as we are, while remaining fully present to the unfolding of our lives. It is the change that occurs when we realize that our struggle was not a sign of our failure, but a sign of our awakening. It is the change that occurs when we finally realize that the clarity we were searching for was not something we had to find, but something we had to realize we were already standing in. We are, in this moment, the master builders of our own existence. We have the tools, we have the material, and we have the capacity to choose the design. We can continue to build in the style of the past, the style of the frantic, the anxious, and the disconnected, or we can choose to build in the style of the future, a future that is grounded in awareness, characterized by presence, and defined by the radical, quiet power of our own inherent humanity. The choice is ours, and it is a choice we make not once, but every single day, with every single breath, and with every single intentional act of our lives. The architecture of inner clarity is not a static state. It is a living, breathing, and ever-evolving reality. As we grow, as we learn, and as we experience more of the richness of our lives, our inner space will grow with us. It will become more refined, more resonant, and more capable of holding the complexities of our experience. It will become the sanctuary we carry with us. Wherever we go and whatever we do, it will be the ground upon which we walk, the air that we breathe, and the light by which we see. This is the end of the building process, but the beginning of the life we were meant to live. It is a life that is no longer held hostage by the hunger for control, but one that is empowered by the signal of the present. It is a life that is no longer governed by the dictates of the machine, but by the unfolding of its own inner truth. And as we continue to inhabit this architecture, we will find that the peace we were seeking is not something we have achieved, but something we have become. We are the architects, we are the house, and we are the clarity that lives within it. And in this realization, we are finally and truly at home. As you reflect on this, consider the space you are currently occupying. Notice the air around you, the sounds of your environment, the sensations in your body. All of these things are part of the architecture. They are the materials you have been given, and you are the one who is currently shaping them into the experience of your life. How will you shape them today? How will you use the next few minutes, the next few hours, to deepen your presence and to strengthen your commitment to this, the most important work of your life? The answer is in your hands, in your breath, and in the quiet, unfolding potential of the present moment. Take this with you as you move back into the flow of your day. Carry the awareness of your own internal architecture. When the hunger to correct rises, remember that you are the space that holds it. When the tension comes, remember that you are the witness that can release it. And when the world demands your attention, remember that you are the architect of your own focus. You are the one who decides. And in that decision, in that commitment to your own inner truth, you are already the person you were meant to be. The journey continues, not by going anywhere, but by arriving, over and over, exactly where you are, and discovering that the freedom you have been searching for has been waiting for you, patiently, all along. This is the deepest form of freedom. The freedom to choose your own state of mind, regardless of the circumstances. It is the freedom to be fully present, to be fully alive, and to be fully yourself, even in the midst of the most chaotic of environments. It is a freedom that cannot be taken away, a freedom that grows stronger the more it is exercised, and a freedom that ultimately leads to a life of profound, enduring peace. It is the architecture of the soul, and it is a masterpiece that you are creating, one breath at a time. There are no blueprints for this that can be handed to you by someone else. You are the only one who can write the design, and you are the only one who can carry it out. You must be willing to experiment, to fail, to adjust, and to learn. You must be willing to trust the process, even when it feels uncertain, and even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because the most profound changes in our inner life are often the ones that are the least noticeable to the outside world. They are the quiet, slow, and steady changes that form the bedrock of a life that is truly, deeply, and authentically lived. As you step forward, remember that you are not alone in this. There are others who are also building their own architecture, who are also learning the craft of the witness, and who are also finding their way back to the clarity. We are all part of a shared, unfolding process, and our collective efforts to find our center are contributing to a more stable, more grounded, and more peaceful world. Our individual work is not just for our own benefit, it is an offering to the world, a testament to the possibility of a different way of being. Stay committed to your practice. Be gentle with your progress. And always, always remember that the signal is within you. It is the foundation of your existence, the source of your strength, and the ultimate, unchanging reality of who you are. This is the architecture of inner clarity, and it is a structure that will serve you, support you, and sustain you for the rest of your life. May you find the peace you are looking for, not by changing the world, but by changing the way you inhabit it. And in that change, may you discover the freedom to be everything you were meant to be, and the peace to simply be. The process of deconditioning the mind is not about becoming someone new, but about shedding the layers of who we were told we should be. We must understand that our attention is a limited resource, and where we place it determines the quality of our reality. When we spend our days feeding the hunger to correct, we are investing in a version of ourselves that is inherently unstable, reactive, and dependent on external validation. When we spend our days cultivating the signal, we are investing in a version of ourselves that is grounded, intentional, and deeply resonant with our own inner truth. This is why the practice of intentional stillness is so revolutionary. By choosing to step out of the constant stream of stimulation, even for a few minutes a day, we are reclaiming our sovereignty. We are saying that our attention is not for sale. We are saying that our value is not determined by the number of connections we have, or the amount of output we generate, or the degree of approval we receive. We are saying that we are the final authority on the quality of our own experience, and when we make this claim, everything begins to change. The people around us may not understand why we are pulling back. They may view our silence as disinterest or our detachment as a form of coldness. But we must be willing to endure this misunderstanding, for it is a small price to pay for the freedom we are gaining. We are not pulling back to isolate ourselves. We are pulling back to deepen our presence. We are not retreating from the world, we are preparing to engage with it in a way that is far more meaningful, far more impactful, and far more deeply connected. This is the great, quiet secret of the master builders. They know that to build something lasting, one must first clear the foundation. They know that one must remove the clutter, the debris, and the structural weaknesses before any real stable construction can begin. We are doing exactly that. We are clearing the foundation of our inner life. We are removing the debris of old habits, old fears, and old expectations. We are reinforcing the structural integrity of our own authentic self. And we are doing this by focusing on the only thing that truly matters, the clarity of our own unfolding presence. As you move through this process, remain curious. Ask yourself, in the middle of a busy day, what is the signal right now? Is my attention on what is actually happening, or is it on the story I am telling myself about what is happening? Is my focus on the reality of the moment, or is it on the anticipation of a future that has not yet arrived? Am I tuned into my own station, or am I broadcasting someone else's? These questions are the compass that will keep you on the path. They are the instruments that will keep you on frequency. And if you find that you have drifted, if you find that you are once again caught in the static, do not be hard on yourself. Just notice it. Laugh at the humanness of it. And then, with a gentle, patient, and persistent heart, turn the dial back to center. That is the work. That is the way. That is the architecture of a life that is truly, deeply, and profoundly lived. And in the end, it is the only way to be. It is the only way to live. And it is the only way to find the clarity that you were meant to have all along. The clarity you are building today is not just for you. It is for everyone who will ever cross your path. When you are centered, when you are grounded, and when you are fully present, you are a beacon of stability for others. You are a source of calm in their storm. You are a living testament to the possibility of a different way of being. Your presence alone, without a word, is a gift to the world. It is a reminder that we can be more than the static. It is a reminder that we can be the sky. And it is a reminder that we can always find our way back to the center. Keep building, keep practicing, keep listening, and never, for a single moment, doubt the power of the clarity you are cultivating. It is the most valuable thing you will ever possess. It is the source of all your potential, the anchor of all your actions, and the home of all your dreams. It is the architecture of your soul, and it is a masterpiece that you are creating. One breath at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. And that in itself is enough. That is everything. Banmun Lamzi tip. Create a daily practice checklist for inner clarity. Draft an executive summary of the transformation plan. Generate a 7-day guided reflection prompt series. The horizon we have reached is not a distant, static point on a map we have been diligently following, but a fundamental expansion of the very space in which our lives unfold. We have spent this hour traveling from the frantic, jagged edges of our own conditioning, the compulsive need to be right, the exhaustion of the performance, and the deep-seated fear of an unscripted future toward the quiet, steady center of our own inherent clarity. We have seen how the urgency of the machine was never our natural rhythm, but a superimposed frequency that kept us from hearing the resonance of our own truth. We have recognized that the boredom we feared was not a void, but a vast, fertile courtyard waiting for the light of our own undivided attention. As we stand here now, in the cooling light of this realization, we find that the weight of the second arrow, the self-inflicted burden of judgment, the frantic need for validation, and the resistance to what issues simply lost its grip. We are no longer the weary laborers of our own ego, constantly trying to construct a version of ourselves that the world will accept. We are the witnesses of a life that is living itself through us. There is a profound, quiet power in this shift. It is not a power that seeks to exert influence over others or to impose order upon the chaos of the world. It is the power of the mountain, the power of the still lake, the power of the observer who understands that the movement of the clouds is not a threat to the sky. We see now that the clarity we were searching for was never a prize to be won at the end of a long, arduous struggle. It was the simple, unadorned presence that remained when we stopped running. It was the clarity that existed beneath the layer of the static, waiting for us to stop adjusting the dial and simply listen. In this silence, why find independence that is entirely independent of our external circumstances? We can navigate the ambiguity of our existence, We can meet the unexpected turns of our lives, and we can remain rooted in our own deep and abiding peace, not because we have figured it all out, but because we have realized that we do not have to. We are enough, exactly as we are, in this unfolding, unscripted moment. The life that lies ahead of us is not a destination we are heading toward, but a way of being we are now invited to inhabit. We will still face the friction of existence, for that is the nature of living in a world of constant change. We will still feel the pull of old habits, for the mind is a creature of deep-seated patterns. But we are different now. We are no longer the slaves of our own reactions. We have built an architecture of inner sovereignty, a sanctuary within the mind where we can return, again and again, to the source of our own stability. We have learned to be the space in which our experience occurs, rather than the objects of the experience itself. There is a sense of immense, quiet relief in this. We have finally set down the heavy stone statue of who we thought we had to be. We have finally stopped trying to read the unwritten future and started to feel the pulse of the present. The performance is over, and the reality has begun. It is a reality that is far more vibrant, far more textured, and far more deeply moving than the play we were performing for an invisible audience. It is a reality that allows us to connect with the people around us, not as characters in our own drama, but as fellow travelers on the same beautiful and sometimes difficult journey. We are moving forward with a lightness of touch, a clarity of purpose, and a heart that is finally truly open. The map is gone, the script is burned, and the sky is wide, infinite, and entirely our own. We have arrived, not at the end of the road, but at the beginning of the life we were meant to inhabit all along. And as we continue to breathe into this, the quiet, unfolding potential of the day, we find that we are already, and have always been, precisely where we need to be. If you were to let go of the last vestige of the person you think you need to be, and if you were to trust, just for one unrepeatable moment, that you are already complete, what would your life look like if you lived it from that place of radical, silent, and entirely unburdened freedom?